What's up, y'all? My name is BJ, and here are 5 things that I wish I knew before I started learning Korean. Let's get into it. And trust me, I know what you guys are thinking. Is he filming in the closet right now? Why is he? Yes. I'm filming in the closet. Space in my apartment right now is kind of minimal. So we're gonna make the best out of what we have and kill it. This is actually gonna be my first long form content on the channel. As you noticed, or may have not noticed, I've been doing a bunch of shorts, comedy themed shorts about my Korean learning journey. But now we're gonna take it a step further and start doing some more long form, or actually start doing long form content. So before I ramble on for the next, 12 hours, I wrote down 5 things that I really wanted to talk about from like a newer, beginner-ish kind of standpoint. Number 1, do not, mind you, I haven't been studying that long, but I've been on and off for about the last year, so I know the basics and I know what I've struggled with, and which is why I've compiled this list of mistakes to avoid in your Korean learning journey. But I have written down right here, number 1, I made number 1 for a reason, and it is to please stop relying on romanization. Oh, Brandon, what's romanization? Oh, I'm gonna tell you right now. If the word is like 안녕하세요, 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 which is hello, it's a standard greeting in Korean. You look at the word, right? 안녕하세요. As a native English speaker, if I was to read this word in English and like try and pronounce it in English, it would not sound like 안녕하세요. That's what I'm saying. And that's just not that word. Any word you can think of in the Korean language has an English romanization, has a romanization in the language you speak, whether that may be Spanish, French, Dutch. Regardless of the language you speak, we have to kind of stop ourselves from relying on, romanization so much. And I say stop relying on because sometimes it can be helpful when you're just starting out and you don't know how to pronounce, if you have like the word 안녕하세요, I'm gonna keep using that word a lot. 안녕하세요. If you have that word, popping up all the time, and you don't know how each individual Hangul character is pronounced, seeing it in your native language will help with that. And it'll help you sort of, grasp the understanding of how to pronounce it or how your brain should be pronouncing it right. But sometimes it can be a bad thing too. In my opinion, more times than not, it can end up being detrimental to your learning. And here's why. If you build up this foundation that, I always have the English pronunciation to fall back on, you're seriously inhibiting your ability to learn Korean further. When you learn English, right, growing up 4, 5, 6, 3, whenever you started to form sentences as a baby, you were only taught English. You weren't taught anything else. As an English speaker, you weren't taught French. You weren't taught a French pronunciation on your goal toward learning English. It was just English. You have to treat Korean the same way. If you keep saying, okay, how do I pronounce this? Oh, it's spelled like this in English. Stop. You're only messing yourself up. And then, there's some words that are romanized, and I'll look at it to this day, and I'm like, how would I even pronounce that in English? So you have to get out of that mindset of wanting to fall back on English when you're learning Korean or any language. Number 2 would be the pronunciation differences. Yes, oh my God, Brandon, you learned a new language and expected the exact same pronunciation. No, that's not what I mean. There are a lot of characters in Hangul, the Korean alphabet, that are not in the American alphabet. For example, oi, 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 oi. I still have problems pronouncing that because in my 28 years, I'm getting up there in age. In my 28 years of living, I've never had to, my mouth and tongue and jaw has never had to oi, oi, ever. There's not one word in English where you're going oi. See what I'm saying? And it's not just that one. And there's more than just the oi. There's no R in Korean. I know in certain words like 제발 or words like that where it sounds like there's an R, 제발, it's really just an L with the slightest tongue roll. So it's not 제발 or 제발. It's like 제발. It's like something like that. That what's it called? What is it called? That lir Even the name of the character in Hangul, Lir, is hard to say as an English speaker. So just stuff like that that constantly pops up in the language is a struggle for me. And I'm sure it's a struggle for a lot of, English speakers, Spanish speakers, just anybody that doesn't have those same pronunciations in their native tongue. It's like my tongue is doing a bicep curl. My tongue is working out trying to pronounce all these different characters and words. We shall prevail. Number 3 on the list is to stop translating everything into English. Allow me to elaborate. Let's say you have an apple. Apple in English is apple. Apple in Korean is sakwa. When you go to the store, Jewel, Osco, Target, Meijer, wherever you may be located, your nearest grocery store, when you go into the store and you see a sakwa, don't say it's an apple, because it isn't. The word apple has never existed in the Korean language, Korean culture, Korean history. And that is one of the biggest things learners of a new language, myself especially, have to be able to understand. Yes, this is an apple to us. This is an apple to me, an English speaker. To my Korean friend that doesn't speak English, let's just say like they don't speak English, this was never an apple. Since birth, since they began forming words, this was always a sakwa. And that's all it will ever be. That's what you have to work on. When you go out, I'm a big fan of seeing something out in the wild, out in the world, and, in my brain, saying it in Korean. I see a tree, namu. I know it's a namu. It's not a tree. It never was a tree. It was always a namu. Once you get into that mindset of stop translating stuff into your native language and just see that item, that physical item, as that word, you're on your way, kid. Number 4, and one of the most overlooked things, as cliche as it might sound, I underestimated how consistent you have to be to learn this language, especially as an English speaker, where there's an entirely new index of characters that don't match the American letters, as well as the pronunciations, the words, and then something we'll get into last, which is like the speech levels. Allow me to paint a picture. Back in high school, you had an option to choose Spanish, German, or French as your foreign language elective. Like many others, I chose Spanish. Spanish uses the same, alphabet that Americans use, English speakers use, except there's tildes and certain accent marks that we don't use that slightly alter the language or letter pronunciation, but it's still the same letters. When you look at a word like nosotros, which is, I think, we, it's been a while, N-O-S-O-T-R-O-S. I may have spelled that wrong. Those are all letters that I'm familiar with. I know what an N is. I know what an O is. I know what an S and a T is. I know how to pronounce those. Looking at those words sequentially, I know how to pronounce them at least. Learning Spanish, I may not have known what a word is, but I knew sequentially if I seen a certain letter set up, I knew how to pronounce it. Korean, you can take a word like, what's like a super easy, son, like a word like son, hand. If you never learned Hangul, you would just look at that and just, if I didn't even tell you it was a language, you would just look at that and be like, oh, that's a pretty cool design. Not knowing it's an entire language that's been around for thousands of years. Stuff like that is why you got to be so consistent. Back to the Spanish thing. I picked up Spanish so easily. I could recite it, boom, 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 boom. I could take years off and still go back. And even just now, the word nosotros, I still know what that means. I haven't taken Spanish in a billion years. I'll forget a Korean vocab word I learned last week if I don't keep pounding it in my brain and keep using it in practice for real. Because all those small details are so different. The pronunciations, the character setup, it just doesn't, my brain doesn't pick it up as fast, and it doesn't stick with me as long as more familiar characters do, which just adds to why you gotta be so consistent. Number 5, and the final thing for this particular video, and something that I still need to work on, and I'm still actively working on, is the politeness levels. 존댓말 and 반말. Two different things. One, for the ones that don't know, you use in settings with your friends, people you're close with, excuse me, in settings where like you're familiar with the other person or it's agreed upon that we're going to use informal speech. 존댓말 is when you are, at work or you're talking to someone that's older than you. Here's where it gets a little confusing. So when you're really fresh and just starting out learning Korean, you'll learn that the yo ending is like the polite way of like ending your sentence, and it's how you end your verb, because verbs go last. In Korean, it's a subject, object, verb, language, verb going last. So the yo ending is letting the listener know that you're respecting them. They might be older than you, and you're using polite speech. And if you don't use the yo ending, more times than not, it's going to be panma, which is informal. So if you, let's say, for example, earlier I said, 저는 BJ이에요. I'm BJ. I put the yo ending for formal speech. I believe I could have also been 저는 BJ이야, which would be like the informal speech. If I was talking to someone younger than me, much younger than me, a friend would know who I am, so that's not a good example, but someone younger than me, I could use like a ya ending or no yo. That's what I thought. I thought, easy, yo, no yo, end of the story. No. Think about it. The nita, sumnita, imnida, those are also very formal endings. So instead of, I could have said, so I said 저는 BJ예요. I could have been like 저는 BJ입니다, which is essentially the exact same thing, just a different way of saying it a little more formally. And one I just learned recently that I believe is also like formal, polite is nika, see, I still don't know all the names of the characters, but the one that's like this, not that pronunciation. It's like that. That's also a formal ending. Correct me if I'm wrong, by the way, but I'm pretty sure that's true. So it's not just yo, nita, imida, nika. Like there's so many ways to be polite, which is something I like. There's a lot of ways to be polite, and only one way to be informal, for the most part. Endings, verb endings, that's gonna change. I might as well get into that really quick. Let's say 좋아하다, which is the verb to like. So instead of saying, so like formal would be 좋아해요. 좋아해요 would be formal. 좋아해. That's like informal. That's if you speak with your friends. So y'all could say like 커피를 좋아해요. I like coffee. I would say that to a teacher, somebody of more prominent status than me, or just mainly someone older than me, someone I respect. If I'm talking to my friend or a counterpart, and we're getting coffee, and they ask, "Do I like coffee?" I could be, 네, 커피를 좋아해. I could just end it at 좋아해. It's quicker speech. It's easier to communicate that way. It's more informal. That's why you can do it. All right, y'all. That is gonna conclude our video for today. Those 5 things that I mentioned, they're all very, very important on your Korean learning journey. Because, if you disregard any one of those, let alone more than one, you're seriously hindering your ability to learn Korean. The language is already hard enough as an English speaker, so why would you want to make it any harder? Don't rely on romanization 24/7. Really consider the pronunciation differences and work on those. Stop translating into your native language so much. Be consistent. Do not stop. I'm still working on that as well. And please understand the politeness levels, especially if you're going to Korea. God forbid you walk up to an ajusi and ajuma or someone older than you and you speak in Panmala rip. They're gonna look at you like you're absolutely insane, as they should. You're in their country. You're a foreigner. We need to be respectful. We need to be respectful in life as a whole. My name is BJ, and I hope you enjoyed. Please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing what you want to see next, and I will get to it.